And welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The headlines. Federal government says it is solely the responsibility of INEC and not President Muhammadu Buhari to deal with infractions committed by the suspended Adamawa State Residential Electoral Commissioner, Malam Hudu Ari. Governor of Adamawa State, Umaru Fintiri, vows to prosecute Hudu Ari for his acts during the state's governorship poll. Muslim faithful in Nigeria joined their counterparts across the world to mark Eid El-Fitr, marking the end of the fasting period. Plus 72-hour ceasefire for Eid holidays fails in Sudan, where fighting between the country's paramilitary rapid support forces and Sudan's army has been on for 1 week. That's News Round in view. Once again, welcome to News Round. Let's begin in the nation's capital, Abuja, where the federal government has broken its silence on the action of the suspended Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Malam Hudu Ari, after the illegal announcement of the result of the state governorship election. Speaking after the federal executive meeting, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, told State House correspondents that the responsibility to deal with the premature announcements rests solely with the Independent National Electoral Commission.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, again sits in for the President, who is now back into the country as he chairs the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Chamber. The briefing after the meeting provides an opportunity for the media to clear the air on the President's position on the Adamawa State election debacle, especially the action of the state's resident electoral commissioner.
I don't think this government has ever intervened in the way the Independent National Electoral Commission, conducts its elections. So there was no need for us to intervene. It was entirely an INEC matter, and INEC handled it. The chairman of INEC is in charge of all employees of INEC and is handling it. So what do you want the government to do? And if President needs to take action, he will so do.
Again, the Information Minister explains why he accused the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, of committing treason. He states that if his running mate had called for insurrection and he did not react, he would equally be guilty as charged.
Yes, I went to the US to balance the skewed reports about the just concluded elections. I said, Mr. Peter Obi has every right to seek redress in court, like Labour Party, but nobody has a right to call for insurrection or to threaten to say that if the president-elect is sworn in, that will be the end of democracy. And that was precisely what the running mate of Mr. Peter Obi said. For anybody to say that if a duly elected president in Nigeria is sworn in, that will be the end of democracy. It's treason. For anybody to say if you swear in a duly elected president, you are swearing the military. It's treason.
Meanwhile, the Federal Executive Council gave a 3.44 billion naira approval for the procurement of surveillance caravan aircraft by the Nigeria Customs Service, primarily to combat smuggling and intelligence gathering across the nation's borders. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And still in Adamawa State Governorship poll, the State Governor Umaru Fintiri has vowed to ensure the suspended resident electoral commissioner is persecuted and jailed. Governor Fintiri made this declaration after receiving his certificate of return alongside his deputy from the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja.
Filled to the brim is INEC headquarters' conference hall with supporters, families and friends of senators and members-elect whose elections were concluded on April the 15th, 2023. Prominent among them are former Sokoto State Governor, Senator Aliu Wamako. Seated and settled, INEC national commissioners present are invited to make the presentation. The lawmakers give INEC a pat on the back for the conduct of the supplementary elections.
There were some anomalies, but INEC, being a very free, fair, mentally alert, and a well-organized institution, justice and the will of the people finally came out.
It was a very free, fair, and credible election. And in Oriamo, of course, with no APCs on the ground there, we worked hard, and hard work paid off.
Moments after, the motorcade of Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of Adamawa State drives into the Commission's headquarters, accompanied by his deputy, Professor Kalita Wafarauta, and their spouses. They are also here to receive their certificates of return.
This way, sir.
Done and dusted, the governor thanks Nigerians for their support and promises to prosecute the suspended state resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Hudu Ari, and the heads of security agencies that flanked him when he prematurely declared the result of supplementary election in the state.
Hudu should be prosecuted. And I believe I'm the right person to prosecute him because he committed the offense in Adamawa. And I'm sure I'm going to prosecute him, along with the security chiefs that committed those offenses with him, because they ought to have been the one to protect democracy. But if the police and the security agencies will be the one to connive with INEC officials to scuttle our democracy, I think it's unfortunate.
The ceremony today brings to an end a process that was highly and keenly contested, an exercise that was long awaited. In the coming days, the Election Petition Tribunal will begin sitting, and aggrieved parties are expected to lay their complaints. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Let's head to Kaduna State, where the government says that about 214 persons have been killed as a result of attacks by terrorists, communal clashes and reprisals across the state from January to March this year. This was contained in the first quarter 2023 security report presented to the State Security Council. Receiving the report, Governor Nasir El-Rufai appealed to the federal government to escalate security operations across the 7 frontline states of the Northwest and Niger states.
Heads of security agencies in Kaduna State arriving at the State Government House for a crucial meeting with Governor Nasir El-Rufai. The agenda here is the presentation of the first quarter 2023 security report by the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan. With everyone seated, Mr. Aruwan begins the presentation by highlighting some of the major security breaches that occurred during the period under review, as well as the efforts of the state government to curtail them.
Kaduna State Government continues to offer extensive and crucial recommendations in key engagements across relevant layers of government and security infrastructure to ensure that the right steps are taken against terrorism in the state and region.
The presentation of the security report comes barely 4 days after 33 people lost their lives in a deadly attack on Ronji community in Zangon Katav local government area of Kaduna State. And both the commander of Operation Safe Haven and the general officer commanding 1 Mechanized Division of the Nigerian Army gave an insight into the incident and efforts being made to forestall a future occurrence.
On several occasions, I've gone to Ronji to talk to them, for them to calm down and live in peace with the headers. But one thing I must say, if there is no true reconciliation, tolerance and understanding within the people, there's no amount of forces you put on ground that will change this issue.
On his part, Governor El-Rufai believes that only sustained security operations are needed to overcome the challenges. He's therefore asking the federal government to put more boots on the ground in Kaduna State as well as the entire Northwest region.
As the statistics presented show, there has been some slight year-on-year improvement in fatalities and other incidences of criminality across the state between 2021 and 2022. We hope that with your combined efforts, this downward trend will continue towards zero within the shortest possible time.
They reviewed 2022 annual security report, and the first quarter 2023 security reports indicate that a total of 1,266 and 4,973 persons were killed and kidnapped respectively within 15 months in Kaduna State. As such, these security reports affords the security agencies the opportunity to reappraise the dynamics of the security threats and how to tackle them in subsequent operations.
It's less than 40 days to the exit of President Muhammadu Buhari from office, and he has pleaded with Nigerians whom he may have hurt in the course of carrying out his duty as president to forgive him. President Buhari stated this while hosting residents of the Federal Capital Territory who paid him a Salah homage at the presidential villa. The president, who also joined to observe the Eid prayers at the Mambila Barracks parade ground, maintained that nothing will stop the May 29 handover date to the next administration.
In what is clearly his last convergence with other Muslim faithful as the nation's #1 citizen, President Muhammadu Buhari arrives at the Mambila Barracks, Abuja, at 9 a.m. to perform the Eid El-Fitr prayers.
Allahu Akbar.
A call to prayers by the chief imam, Captain Salisu Musa, echoes through the parade ground.
Sami Allah liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
The prayer is followed by a special sermon called a hutbah by the presiding imam. He underscores the need for forgiveness and genuine repentance from sin. Quintessentially, special prayers are offered for the nation's stability and a smooth transition. Done with the spiritual needs, the president, who feels fulfilled, speaks clearly about handing over by May 29.
God willing, nothing will stop it. Nigerians have appreciated the system and they are going to defend it.
Hours later, the president, accompanied by the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the president of the Senate, among others, plays host to about 200 guests at the State House.
I thank God.
A sense of gratitude to God for a successful tenure is palpable here as Christian and Muslim leaders share experiences. The president again underpins an apparent enthusiasm to go home in less than 39 days, but first appeals to Nigerians.
Finally, I can't even wait to go home. If you said tax, I'll move to Niger Republic. Whoever thought that there has been some form of injustice on him, we are all human. There is no doubt I hurt some people, and I wish they will pardon me. And those that think that I've hurt them so much, please pardon me.
The homage presented an opportunity for the president of the Senate to air his views on the presidency of the 10th National Assembly.
And I'm sure that our leaders will come together and decide how to go about how the leadership of the 10th National Assembly will emerge. I'm very confident that the APC members and senators-elect will respect whatever our party and our leaders will eventually come up with.
At his last homage, President Muhammadu Buhari urges that the Eid El-Fitr, one of the festivals in Islam, is a stark reminder for Nigerians to embrace the values projected by Ramadan, essentially to advance a stronger nation. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
When News Round returns, we'll bring you more on the Eid El-Fitr celebrations in the north and in the south. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Let's head to the northern part of the country now, where Muslims joined their counterparts across the country to mark Eid el-Fitr with prayers and messages of peace. Governors and other prominent personalities, including the Sultan of Sokoto and the President General of the Nigeria Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs, Saad Abubakar III, all used the occasion to call on the Muslim faithful to continue to pray for the unity and the progress of Nigeria.
The Sokoto State Central Eid ground was a beehive of activities as the Sultan of Sokoto arrived for the Eid prayers. The chief imam of Sokoto, Malami Akwari, led the prayers and admonished Muslims to imbibe the teachings of Ramadan. In Kaduna State, the governor-elect Uba Sani, former governor of the state Ramalan Yero, and the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi, were among the dignitaries that observed the Eid prayers at the Murtala Muhammad Eid ground.
To Allah that He give our country peace and prosperity. We call on all Nigerians to maintain the peace. We are seeing what is happening in countries like Sudan, in other parts of the world. Whatever our issues, we are better off resolving them peacefully.
The prayer for peace is also the call in Nasarawa State.
Allah's blessings during this period. I pray that we will continue to live in peace with one another, so we will continue to practice the teachings of our own religions, so we can see the Nasarawa state of our dream.
At the Kano Central Eid ground, Deputy Governor Yusuf Gawuna asked Muslim faithful to work together towards a peaceful transition of the present administration. In Yobe State, the Deputy Governor Idi Gubana has asked the residents to pray towards a successful transition to the government. He also charged them to fast to obtain the blessings of Almighty Allah. In Bauchi State, the governor assured the people of the state of progress and development in the next 4 years.
Time for governance. We thank our party and those who voted for us, but certainly we will rule or lead by justice and equity.
In Zamfara State, however, Abdulaziz Yari enjoined Muslims to daily live out the teachings of the holy month of Ramadan, such as peace, love, and kindness. At the Taraba State University Mosque, the state's Deputy Governor, Haruna Manu, joined other faithful for prayers, after which he advised that the tenets of Ramadan are lived out and not just for the season. The clarion call for peaceful coexistence was echoed by Kogi State Governor Yaya Bello. He also urged Muslim faithful to practice the lessons of Ramadan.
Just like our chief imam that led the Eid prayer, his sermon is all about unity, and I urge each and every one of us to unite as a people.
The Niger State Governor focused his message on security. He charged all and sundry to intensify prayers for a peaceful society. In Ilorin, the Grand Cadi of the Kwara Sharia Court of Appeal, Justice Abdul Latif Kamaldeen, appealed to Muslims to imbibe the lessons of Ramadan. In the meantime, the Secretary General of the Jamaatul Nasir Islam, Sheikh Khalid Abubakar, at the Fiber Mosque in Jos, has urged Nigerians to put the country first in the aftermath of the just concluded elections.
Without Nigeria, where will we be? Without Nigeria, we will not be anywhere. You could see what is happening in Sudan today. It is indeed very pathetic. And that we should be wary of those who instigate countries from outside to instigate them to cause trouble, and in the end, it doesn't pay anything.
The Eid El-Fitr celebration marks the end of the 29-day Ramadan fast. Victoria Longchamp, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the call for national unity and progress has also echoed among Muslim faithful in other parts of the southern country, Nigeria, as they gather at various centers to mark the Ramadan fast. They offered prayers for peace, unity, and national progress as Islamic clerics called for continued love among the citizens.
Following the end of Ramadan fasting, Muslim faithful gather at various places across the south to pray and share their thoughts on the importance of the festivity. At the Nasfat Mosque in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Muslims gather to observe Eid prayers, with the Chief Imam, Abdul Latif Abiodun, appealing to Nigerians not to use religion to create problems in the country.
Religion has been something that has torn this country apart. I want to join my Muslim brothers and sisters to make sure they make sure they take it easy when it comes to the matter of religion, and that all the ethnic groups in Nigeria, let us all come together and live as an entity so that Nigeria can be a peaceful country for us all.
One of the congregants explains that being a Southern Muslim is not as a lot of people think it is. He says they are free to practice their faith without fear of harassment.
Occasionally we have some issues of misconceptions around the religion, which is normal, and that's why we set up these organizations like NASFAT to clear those misconceptions about Islam. But basically, in River State, there's been a peaceful atmosphere so far. And as you see in conduct of our activities in NASFAT, other organizations pray their Eid without problems.
In Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, Muslims in their thousands converged on Lantoro Central Praying Ground to observe the 2 Rakat prayers, signaling the end of the Ramadan. Governor Dakba Abiodun used the occasion to thank the people for their support. His message was conveyed by the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Ganiu Hamzat.
We must continue to follow the ethics, the values that Ramadan taught us even after the end of Ramadan. He has also sent me to tell our spiritual fathers that he thanks them very much, because without their prayer, we would not have been able to achieve all that he achieved within the last 4 years, and that they should please continue to pray for this administration.
Muslims in Oyo were not left out in the festivity, as they also joined their counterparts in other parts of the country for the prayers. Thereafter, some top government officials visited the governor, Seyi Makinde, at the government house. The governor used the opportunity to congratulate them on the successful Ramadan and called for sustained prayers to foster development in the state.
I want to say that we should be thankful to God, no matter how difficult we felt the situation has been. But our God has kept us through the 30 days of fasting. This is to discipline the flesh. Our God has seen us through. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
In the eastern region, the story is not different, as Muslims in Enugu State also gather at the Islamic Center in Uwani to mark Eid El-Fitr. Some of them share their experience as Igbo Muslims.
That love which we started today will be carried on, both Muslim, non-Muslim, whatever denomination you are in. Let us come together, jam together, pray together, thank God together, worship God together, because we are worshiping only but one God.
With the Ramadan fasting over and Muslim faithful spreading the word of reconciliation and harmony, the prayers of many is for sustained peace in Nigeria and the world over.
And finally, on News Round, outside our shores, bombing, shelling and gunfire continued in Khartoum. In spite of a 72-hour ceasefire period, Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces, the RSF, had agreed to. In a statement posted on Twitter, the RSF said the truce was intended to open humanitarian corridors to evacuate citizens and give them the opportunity to greet their families. The truce was to start from 6 a.m. on Friday to coincide with the Muslim holiday of Eid El-Fitr. Fighting between the RSF and Sudan's army has been on for over a week now, derailing an internationally backed plan for transition to a civilian democracy 4 years after the fall of Islamist autocrat Omar al-Bashir and 2 years after a military coup. At least 400 people have been killed in the power struggle that has dashed hopes for progress towards democracy in Sudan. And this is where we draw the cuttings on News Round for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays. I'm Anne Mwawadu.